Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to CSS Lesson 5. Today we're going to be talking about floats, or floating elements. And I'm not talking about the Macy's Day Parade or anything like that. We're talking about specific elements that are going to be floating inside of our web page. And we'll get a better idea of what that actually means here in a second. So as we always do, let's ask ourselves a good question here. Now this question is, what even is a float? It is not, again, a float like the Macy's Day Parade. It is a float that is an element that is taken out of the normal position and placed to the left or the right, allowing text and other inline elements to flow around it. So where is that useful? Well, floating images to the left and right of text. So as you can see with this little diagram, you can see that we float an image to the left or the right, and then text will be allowed to flow around it. And we'll look at an example of that today. The next one is creating columns of text. You could have, or columns of text or images. You could have two columns floating to the left and the right of each other. And we'll take a look at an example of columns as well. And then the final example is actually many website layouts are made up of floats. Now, you can see here there's the header, main, nav, and the footer. You could, instead of using these tags, use floats and position them and make them the right size instead of using these tags. So let's go ahead and start off with an example. Let's go ahead and take a look now. Alright, let's look at this example here. So what I did is I did this lorem ipsum thing again, and I got a nice bust of Cicero, as you can see here. It's a very nice marble bust, and we're going to go ahead and see if we can position this in a better way. Because as you can see right now, it is just plain ugly right now. So what I did is I have this image ID here, Cicero, and I got the source image there. Now I'm calling that hashtag Cicero ID here, and let's go ahead and see if I say float right. Let's see what happens. If I just type in float :right for this ID and hit save, and let's go ahead and see. That looks much, much, much better. So as you can see, float :right is going to go ahead and float that image to the right here and allow the text to flow around it. We can also, if you don't like how close it is to this image, we could go ahead and change the padding, right? Go padding, and we could say, let's say padding dash, let's just say padding, let's say 15 pixels. Give us a little more room. And now, as you can see, it's taking up a little more space, it's taking away from the edge, and I'll say that looks a little bit better in my opinion. So that's float right. What if we did float left? Let's take a look now. So as you can guess, it's going to go to the left now. Actually, honestly, float left looks a little bit better. If I do 10 pixels instead, it's almost centered under that there heading. That looks kind of nice. I like that. Float left looks good. So as you can see, we go ahead and float that image to the left, and using float we can go ahead and create a floating element that is placed outside of its normal position, and it's going to be allow the text and inline elements to flow around it. Now that's all fine and dandy, but what if we wanted to have another image? So I have another image here with the ID of painting, and it's actually a classic image of Cicero in the I think it's a court case against Cataline, the Cataline conspiracy. That's neither here nor there. But right now I have it on display none, which is why you don't see it. Again, that's a useful element if you want to do that. Let's go ahead and see, let's say float left for this one, and let's see what happens. Oh, that's not great. That's not great at all. So what we can do if we're playing with this and we see this happening, and we don't want it to float, right by this other image, we can go ahead and say clear, and we can go ahead and say clear left, and now if we do that, it's going to clear any other elements out from the left of it and allow it to be placed where there's nothing on the left. If we did clear both, it should clear both sides. So right now, since there's no elements right to the right of it like an image, it's not going to make a difference. If we did clear right, let's see what happens. So as you can see, there's no image elements to the right of it, so it's not going to clear that. No floats to the right. So if we said, let's go back to clear left, because that looks the best. And let's go ahead and change the padding to make it look a little bit better. 10 pixels. And now we've got a nice little image here. So now it's nicely formatted. Oh, I made a mistake. Forget a frickin' colon. That looks better. Okay. So as you can see, we can float images and use the clear attribute here, or the clear property, and clear images to the left of the, or floats to the left or the right of it, so that we're not getting any weird formatting issues. Again, we can also go ahead and use the position element here. We could say position relative. Now this is going to position it relative to where it is right now, and we could move it down if we wanted to. Let's go ahead and move it down, I don't know, 300 pixels, just to separate those images a little bit. As you can see, whoa, it leaves behind that where that image just was. So that's not good. So again, you got to be careful with these floats. You can't really move these around as easily as you might think. So be really careful with that. It's not a simple thing. You will want to place it in the right place. Notice I placed both of these images at the top, so it's going to automatically create a space for them as if they were at the top. And if I move them around, it's going to cause some issues. So, as you can see, that is kind of an interesting thing. Let's go ahead and look at another scenario. So I'm going to go ahead and leave in these float lefts. Actually, I'm going to take out these images. I'm going to take out the actual attributes of this, and let's just go ahead and put them back at the top for now. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to, I have two paragraphs here, or two paragraph tags. I have this first one, which is just the Latin lorem ipsum, and then I have a translation on right here. So I gave the Latin the Latin version an ID called left column, and then the English translation an ID called right column. Now, if I wanted to put them side by side so somebody could look at them, it's kind of cool. We can go ahead and say hashtag left column, and remember it is case sensitive with these, so I need to make sure that I do that properly, and say float left, and then I do the same thing for the right column ID and say float left. Let's see what happens. Control S. Nothing happened. Now the reason for that is because the width automatically is set to be 100% of the window. So if I say width, let's say 40% for both of these, so I'm going to go ahead and take that, place those there, Control S. Now, as we can see, we got these right by each other. Let's go ahead and up that percentage to 47 and 47 so that it is on the left and the right there. So as you can see now, we have these side by side. And we can go ahead, notice what happens if we do the clear left again. Let's see what happens if we do that for the right column. Notice it goes ahead and puts it at the below that. It clears the left, any floats on the left, and puts it there. So we don't want that clearly. We want this side by side. Let's go ahead and put that back up there. That looks pretty decent. Let's say that we wanted to also increase the padding of this right column here and make it a little bit more spread out and just kind of, a little bit better. Again, you can do, there's 4 numbers you can do with the padding. You can do 1, which sets all of them, or you can do 4 numbers. Remember, it's top, so it goes top, right, bottom, and left. And since I want to do the left, I'm going to do I'll do 5 pixels. Let's do 0 pixels, 0 pixels, 0 pixels, and then, so that's going to be my left setting. Let's do 15 pixels. Let's see what that looks like. So that pushes it over like I wanted. Let's go ahead and move that a little bit further, 25 pixels, and that looks pretty good. So now, if I wanted to, I could also, go ahead and create a border for this right side and do 2 pixels and say, solid black, let's do solid blue, and then go ahead and do the same thing over here, and let's change that to solid red. And let's take a look at that. So now, as you see, we've got 2 columns, and they've got a nice little border, and we can see the differences between them. So that's pretty useful. So as you can tell with floats, we're going to be able to position things a little bit better and create images floating to the left and the right of them. I have a question though. What if we go ahead and try to put in one of these image tags inside of one of these paragraphs? Let's go ahead and place it at the top, and let's see what happens now. So as you can see, I'm going to delete this line here really quick. It goes ahead and places it there, right? And that's kind of awkward. So again, we can go ahead and float that Cicero image, that bust, to the left, and it's going to go ahead and then format it and make it look nice. So let's go ahead and delete this other image because let's go ahead and put this other image. Let's delete it because it's annoying me. Hit run. And now, as you can see, we've positioned it there. Obviously, this might be a little too big. I might want to change some of the sizes here to make it fit a little bit better inside of that column. Now, as you can see, we can float that image on the inside of my paragraph, and you can create div elements and all sorts of different things to create different sections where you can float things inside of it. So go ahead and play around with some floats. That's kind of a really cool thing. Again, we were able to position elements on the left or the right and have text float around it. Right here it's floating to the left. We were able to create columns left and right, and we can have things on the left and the right of each side of each other, which is pretty awesome. And then also, if we wanted to, I'm not going to show you that, but we could use make some layouts with this. You can experiment with that on your own if you wish. You can also use the layout tags. There's a bunch of different ways to do layouts, and we'll do another video explicitly on just laying out our website. So, all right, let's go ahead and summarize what we covered today. All right, to quickly summarize everything we covered today, let's talk about it again. Let's say floats are elements taken out of normal position. They can be placed to the left or the right and allow text and other inlines to flow around it. Like as we saw with the images, they went ahead and flowed around, the text flowed around that image. So again, it's useful for floating images, creating columns, or website layouts. So go ahead and experiment around with those. I honestly highly recommend that you experiment and play around with floats. There's some interesting things that you might want to play around with, and there's something called the clear fix hack, which is something you're going to need to run into, and I'll make a video about that in the future. But this should get you up and running, so go ahead and play around with that and see what you can do.